Hi, volleyball fans, and welcome back to Volley Talk, the podcast created for volleyball lovers who want to dig deep into what is going on in NCAA and international volleyball. I'm your host, Sarah Pavin. I'm an Olympian, beach volleyball world champion, former Nebraska Cornhusker, and longtime pro, both indoor and on the beach.
And I'm Adam Schultz, former indoor player, international volleyball coach, and the show's resident stat guy.
Lots of volleyball.
Lots
just
of
like
different
last week.
volleyball, which was fun.
There's a lot happening, you guys. We kind of mixed up what we were watching this week. I think everything got some love except love. No,
True.
I didn't mean for that to happen, but you know.
Well, I couldn't get a couple of their games that were worth watching due to our TV package setup, but I actually had a really good week watching volleyball. I really enjoyed the matches that we ended up watching. I thought it was a good mix. I thought they were high quality. This was one of my better volleyball watching weeks, I think.
Oh, there you go. Adam said it. So, yeah, as I said, we mixed things up a bit. We got our fantasy going strong, and we are very excited to dive in, maybe play a little game today. So, let's get started. Okay, weekly highlights and happenings. First up, would you consider your fantasy league to be a highlight or just a happening?
Just a happening. It was not a spectacular week for me. So I dropped in the rankings. I think I'm currently at 80 maybe. I was as low as 50 last time. Well, yeah, not my best week, but I got a bunch of 3-week contracts in place. So I'm hoping that my value will rise in the coming weeks.
I had the opposite situation.
You had a couple good players.
I started this week in the high 200s. Okay. Things were looking bleak. Shout out to all of you who joined the league.
Over 300 now.
This past week, we're over 300. I was a little upset, however, because new joiners jump in at the average score.
Which was ahead
and I
of
was
you.
below midway. That just kept pushing me way down. So I was like, while I'm happy that you all are joining, I'm sad for myself.
Bottom third, not the best.
I was lower than the bottom third. I'm talking like bottom maybe 20%. Okay, maybe even bottom 10%. That's how bad it was. As I told you last week, I had 2 players get me negative points. I had no money left. I couldn't even fill my bench. That's how bleak things were.
That means you
my
had to
salary cap went way down. But as of the time of this recording, I am in the low 90s. The improvement on my fantasy team was drastic. Shout out to Lydia Martin for doing way better this week than last week. So yes, I'm happy. A couple of my multi-week contracts are expiring, so I'm pretty convinced that my budget's going to go up.
Hopefully.
I'm feeling so much better. But who was your star player and who was your dud this week as of this recording?
I think my dud was my setter. Tuaninga did not have a great week. And I actually tried to pick a bunch of average players who I thought would increase in value. So I did all 1-week contracts at the beginning, the first week. So I had to pick a full new team this week. And then I tried to get value contracts that I thought would increase. So I didn't have any bangers per se this week. I had a bunch of middling performances. So I'm hoping...
Would you go back to that strategy?
Ask me again next week.
Okay.
Because I signed all of these players to 3-week contracts expecting their value to go up. So the long-term strategy, we'll see if it pays off or not. Right now, not so much.
You know what I did last week? I signed Nunaviller, Abercrombie, and Hens to 2-week contracts because I'm like, we got some veterans, consistent performers. It wasn't good. It was not good. Abercrombie lost me money.
She played well this week.
But I was stuck with her. She's doing better this week. But I will say, so she did well. Nunaviller did pretty well.
She was the only person from Omaha who was good this week.
So they did well for my week too. Berkeley Oblad, I got stuck with her again. She got me negative points this week, but I couldn't afford anybody better. She was the lowest cost middle that I could afford. She got me 0 points. And you know what? She didn't play. understandably, because she got negative points last week. So she was my dud.
You're going to bite that one.
I can get rid of her, though, after this week. And then, so yeah, Nunavilla and Abercrombie did pretty well for me.
I'm having a ton of fun playing.
This is so much fun. It's keeping me so engaged in MLV. I'm not going to lie. There were a lot of questions that came up about the bench players this week. Do you want to address that?
Sure. I had some questions as well, so I was speaking with the developer. So hit me with the questions. I'll throw you the answers.
So people were asking, do the bench players' points count for your points?
They do not. They only count if they replace a player on your active roster who was officially injured.
So it's basically just an insurance policy.
So that you can still gain points in that position if an injury occurs, yes.
So what happens if one of your players doesn't even sniff the court?
Too bad. Not sniffing the court and injured, two different things.
Okay, there you go.
And you can't make subs. The subs are automatic. The other thing, were there other questions about the bench players?
Just a lot of people like, are you penalized for not being able to fill your bench? Do they count for your costs?
No.
Do they...
The only other thing that I had a question for was you get locked out of some players when contracts expire. Your bench players should not cost you contracts. So if you have a bench player, they expire the next week. If you wanted to put them onto your active roster, there isn't a cooling down period. So
only the ones that have been on your active roster when their contract expires, you can't re-sign them right away for, I think, 3 weeks.
I don't know. I can't remember what the time frame is, but something like that.
Maybe not.
The other thing I will say is for anyone else who's interested, and I saw some questions on the YouTube channel this week, you can always join the league.
Mm-hmm.
You will come in at the average spot, right in the middle.
And as we found out this week, you can be literally bottom of the barrel and claw your way back into the conversation.
The season is early.
Look at me. I was down and out, down on my luck, and now I'm re-energized, rejuvenated. So for sure, join, because you will jump in right at the middle. So to do so, head to playvolley.com/Volley Talk. That's play, VOLI.com/Volley Talk. You can join the league, join the conversation. I've been getting in on the chats.
I have not. I've been following the stats.
Of course, as he does. But yeah, having a ton of fun, so be sure to join the league. Okay, NCAA men noteworthy results this week. These are results that kind of made me raise an eyebrow, you know? So Lindenwood beat number 12 CSUN in 4.
CSUN, if I remember correctly, was inconsistent last year as well.
Yes.
Losing some games they quote-unquote shouldn't, winning some that they shouldn't either. So we'll follow them, but that is definitely an upset.
Number 7 UC Irvine beat number 3 Pepperdine in 4.
We watched that game. We'll talk about it. Great game.
Loved
watching that game.
And number 13 Penn State beat number 9 Lewis in 4. Penn State's already off to a way better start than they were last year. I believe they started the season at least 0-8 last year, but held on to that top 20 ranking. Similar to the women this past women's season.
Penn State just getting the nod for historical performance when it comes to rankings. But do we think that Penn State men are for real this year?
I mean, do I... they play in the EIVA. I think they have a chance to make it out of that conference into the tournament.
I do too. I'm looking forward to watching them play a little more. Because last year they were just not fun to watch.
They're already doing better than last year. At the time of this recording, Ball State was up 2-1 on Stanford. Stanford is not doing great.
Not the best.
You know what? At MPSF Media Days, talking to them, I was expecting them to turn things around.
Well, their coach does a good job too. I think that they will get better as the season goes on.
They are the only team in the MPSF returning every single player.
That's true. They should have started better.
So they're not doing amazing. And
I'm not willing to write them off just yet.
And Loyola Chicago and UCLA are about to face off. So that is what we've got going on there. In MLV, Columbus is still out here getting wins, pushing teams.
That's my surprise of the season, how good Columbus has been.
They beat Grand Rapids in 5.
Yeah.
They were down 4-0 at the beginning of that 5th set.
I mean, kudos to them. They haven't given up. They've been gritty in the matches they've played. They've kept coming. I really like what they've done with their culture and style so far. They knew they had to get out to a good start, and they've done that.
Well, and they pushed Indy to 5.
Yep.
Heredia Cologne finally getting that start. Been wondering where she was at. I don't scour the injury list. I don't know.
Well,
Was she hurt or they just...
I saw her hip wrapped this week, so I'm assuming
Mm.
that there was some sort of injury that she needed a little bit of time
She
for.
dominated. So if anybody's looking for a player, maybe a good steal for your fantasy team this week, maybe think about her, because now that she's played a match, she can
She'll
be
in.
drafted.
Yep.
They are doing well. Dallas got their first win in franchise history,
Heyo.
3-1 over San Diego, but it seems that everybody's beating San Diego. But still, that's a big deal.
Well, San Diego might be 0-4 after today.
Correct.
They are currently playing Atlanta. I have to assume they're not going to win that one. 0-4 start on the season, not the best.
Well, we had them finishing
Second last to Columbus.
Columbus is like, no way, Jose. San Diego's currently in last.
Yeah,
We'll
they're
see
digging
what
themselves
happens.
a hole early. It's going to be
Not great.
Yeah, not great.
I'm just going to say I'm not a fan of their setter. I've been saying that since last MLV season. Montrez is just not it for me. But there's a lot of unhittable balls.
It might be the MLV swindle for you for this season.
You want somebody to catch strays all season? Get ready, Montrez. It's you. I think I
the
said that watching the San Diego game this week.
You
I was
did.
like, Montrez is my MLV swindle.
Sarah always has one player for each league, for each season, who just catches strays, and the jokes are ongoing. So buckle in. This is what it's going to be this year.
I don't think I have one for love yet. Stay
You'll find
tuned.
one.
It's still early,
You'll
everybody.
find one.
Okay. Omaha had a rough week. They lost in 5 to both Atlanta and Orlando.
I watched pieces of those games and a post-game interview on that one.
You weren't a fan of the post-game interview.
I wasn't.
You wanted more.
I thought the coach was boring to listen to. The interview was only like 4 minutes long, and it still wasn't engaging. And I will say,
You guys, Adam is feeling it today.
Well, if you're going to talk, you might as well. They were just token answers. Like, give me something.
The safe
Give me
answers.
something real.
We're
Yeah.
not talking a Kelly Sheffield podcast interview, everybody.
True. I will say the post game media I watched was after the first match that they were
Lost to
reverse swept.
Was that Atlanta?
I believe so. I liked Beeson's answer, actually. She talked about continuing to work on hitting high and deep and acknowledged that didn't happen. I think she got blocked a bunch at the end of that match. They were not close in the fifth set on that one. I think losing 15-6, if I remember correctly. So to me, when an athlete makes the recognition of what's going wrong and you can tell they're aware of it, you know that there's a process going on there. And I think, Emily Londot came in and played well in their second match. Beeson was benched after the first two. They're going to need that right side position to score points for them to be successful, in my opinion. And so I liked Beeson's answer early on in terms of what she has to work on, but now you have to do it, and you have to do it under pressure. So, didn't have the response in the second game after the post-game statement. We'll see where it goes. It doesn't always happen quickly, but focused on the right things.
Finally, in love, Madison is off to a good start. They are 2-0. They beat Nebraska in 4 this week. But I want to say, I think Houston and Madison are playing the reverse game from last season, where Houston started so strong and Madison was in the tank. Didn't they drop like 7 in a row at some point?
It wasn't good.
Was not good. But this year it's the reverse. Houston can't get a win so far, and Madison's 2-0. So
Just
watch
goes
out.
to show you that completely getting rid of your roster and bringing in 15 new players is the way to go.
There we go. Take some notes. That is what happened this week in the leagues that we paid most attention to. We have a couple matches that we're going to dig into a little deeper here in a second, but that's what's going on. We kind of hinted at a few of the matches we watched this week. We checked out Dallas, San Diego, MLV.
Yep.
We did a little
Got that
bit.
Victory app downloaded
Oh,
for
yeah,
free.
baby. Now that we know what Victory Plus is.
So again, I got some clarification on this. So I think if I was confused, maybe some other people were confused. Almost all Dallas games will be streamed on Victory Plus. That is it's either a Dallas or a Texas streaming app where they have a whole bunch of sports. So it is free to watch. You can put it on your smart TV and you'll be able to find all of their games there. So if you're looking for them, easy enough to set up, pretty easy to sign up, and worked really well.
We watched a little bit of Columbus, Indy, and we didn't watch any love. Did you watch any love this week?
I didn't. The matches I wanted to watch were on CBS and then
USA or something.
USA. So I'll have to wait for those to come
We're living
out.
that streaming life, everybody.
Yeah.
So we watched Pepperdine, UC Irvine, as we talked about.
Love that game.
And we checked out some Italian league action with Scandicci and Novara on the women's side.
And that was a great match.
Yes, it was. So we're going to dive in a little deeper into Pepperdine, UC Irvine.
The match ended up in a quote-unquote upset with...
I mean, a top 10 matchup, but yes, for all intents and purposes, I think Pepperdine was expected to win. And especially seeing the UC Irvine lineup, they had a ton of turnover last season.
They did.
We saw Micah Goss playing, William Darcy coming off the bench as a part of a 6-2, and their libero Shane Aiken. But everybody else that was playing was new to the court.
Correct. And Pepperdine coming off a great season. They've got 2 6'10" pin hitters, one on the opposite, one on the left side. They've got international experience. They returned all their players but their setter. They won the MPSF tournament. Like, they had all of the momentum, in my opinion, coming into the season. I expected them to win this one. I want to say handily, but I was expecting them to win.
So was I. I think watching the match, like, they have the physicality. Watching, I still am like, how did they not win? UC Irvine was just consistent. I thought they ran the middle much better. And honestly, I just need to give a shout out to those middles for their out of system setting. Holy.
Their middles are maybe some of the best all around volleyball players I've seen in the NCAA.
Oh my gosh. I saw like these middles setting beautiful out of system balls. They were fake attack jump setting. They were running tempo. I'm like, no, normally when like you see a middle going to set a ball, the hitters are like, oh dear. These guys were delivering.
Yeah.
So shout out to them for sure.
Let's just look at this quickly since you already talked about how dominant the middles were. The UC Irvine middles got 25 sets total between the two of them and had 14 kills. So they got set a whole bunch, which was great. And they had a ton of kills.
Similar hairdos too. Love that.
A little hard to tell apart at the beginning for me.
The hair was puffy, flowing. I loved it.
Gives them a few extra inches, makes them look a little taller, intimidation factor.
Mm-hmm.
But you always felt that they were a threat. Not only when they didn't get set, but they worked hard in transition. They're up in the air quick. I thought that the Pepperdine middles had to really stay and watch what was going to happen in the middle, which opened up the outside hitters for UC Irvine. And I actually thought that was one of the two keys to success for them in that match, in my opinion. And the other one was UC Irvine's defense. They covered a ton of balls. UC Irvine also outdug them 34-26, which in the men's game is a pretty big margin because you're getting way more out-of-system swings, which was huge. Now, Pepperdine did outblock them 8-2. Part of the defense was some of those coverage balls, which they did a good job. And I mean, you look at Pepperdine with their size, they're a very good blocking team, and they were leading in most of the sets that they lost. UC Irvine came up from behind. Pepperdine's going to have to learn how to close out sets.
I think in set 2, they were up 16-8. Pepperdine was up 16-8. They lost.
Yeah.
In set 3, they were up at least 17-14 at one point, and then UC Irvine caught up. Pepperdine snuck out set 3. But it was just like, there's no reason to lose when you're up 16-8.
From a team standpoint, how concerning for you is that early in the season?
I mean, it's tough because every game counts towards your ranking. And like, if you're not winning your conference tournament, those matches really matter for the at-large bids in the men's game. Granted, there are 12 teams playing now in the NCAA tournament. Do I think that this loss will hurt them so much down the stretch? No. But if you want to be in the conversation for national championship, like, you want to win those.
And what about from a culture standpoint moving forward? Is that something you just write off? Like, it's going to happen once in a while, but it happened in almost every set they lost. Is that something as a coach or as players you're addressing after it happens once? Or
Yeah, I think it has to be addressed for sure. You don't like what happened? Did they do something like from a tactic perspective or a physical perspective to make that happen, or was it our team's mentality or lack of focus or whatever? So I think if a team is pushing back, that's one thing, but if it's like a lack of focus because you're up that much, like that's something you can control.
now, what did you see as one or two key reasons for them giving up those leads? I know what I thought I saw.
Honestly, the Cole Hartke's a black hole. He scores very well, but like whenever UC Irvine needed a point, it was like tip it somewhere near him and like we're gonna score.
He had one dig on the match and many chances to dig the ball. I don't think I saw him bend his legs.
Like when it came down to it, if UC Irvine needed a point, it was like tip it near him and like sometimes he took a step.
And I think his only dig was actually a pancake where he laid out and just got his hand on the ball. And this is not uncommon. He's 6'10". It's a lot of effort to get low.
Well, and he had a lot of success as a freshman. Like he was a
100%.
second team All-American. Like who knows what that does to your mentality? I'm not saying this is certain, but
this is, in my experience, a very typical progression for a male opposite, right? You come out, you're thinking about hitting the ball, you're thinking about blocking. He had a whole bunch of kills. I think he had 4 or 5 blocks on the night. Like for all intents and purposes, he's coming out of that match going, I played really well.
He did his job as an opposite if we're looking strictly at point scoring.
But here's the thing. When you lose close matches and you're the person that teams are picking on to score points, those defensive balls matter.
But if he's incapable of making those reads or whatever, like you're 6'10", it's obviously not easy to hit the ground. Trust me. But then like, what are we doing to tweak our defensive system to like cover that?
That was the biggest.
Which I think makes it good that this happened early in the season.
I agree.
Because there's still a ton of time to fix that.
They will need to find an adjustment because anybody watching that's going to be what they're keying in on. And then you take him out of transition as well.
Yes.
So there's going to be a few things that I think Pepperdine needs to adjust. They block well, but they're not a good defensive team and they're not a good out-of-system setting team. I will say 2 performances I wanted to highlight, which I thought were really good. Barnett played really well for Pepperdine. He's incredibly dynamic. They run him in a bunch of different pipe positions, which is incredibly effective. He passes well. He's dynamic on the swing. I really liked his performance. So that was good. I also like William Darcy. Why he didn't start the match is
he
confounding
played
to me.
For UC Irvine when they moved Flexen to the left. He was the right side last year. And to see him coming in as part of a 6'2", I was kind of surprised. But then they just kept him in.
Yeah, I mean, well, he went 19 for 27, hitting 630 as an opposite. I mean, that couldn't have been a shock to the coaching staff. Like, for whatever reason, he didn't start, but he finished and he was unbelievable.
He didn't start, but he finished it.
Absolutely. And what else did you think about the match?
Honestly, I was just like really impressed with UC Irvine's grittiness. Like looking at them, I was like, wow, they're really small. They're so undersized. And they're like, in this middle, 6'10". And I was like, yikes, wow.
I mean, their middle was 6'10", but compared to the 6'10" boys from Pepperdine, he looked small.
The team as a whole looked very small. It was a very different look than the UC Irvine we saw last year.
Correct.
I thought, just their grittiness, the way that they ran their system together, I was like, oh wow, don't sleep on UC Irvine. Like,
I really liked their setter. I thought he ran a really good offense.
I thought he ran a much better offense than the Pepperdine setter.
And that was the other difference to me, was how they chose to run the offense, specifically owning the middle of the court with both middles from UC Irvine and then delivering over top of that. It was good. Really good.
That was a fun match to watch. It was engaging. It was exciting. Both teams played well, but like the detail stuff was taken care of better by UC Irvine.
Agreed. And we were able to watch that match on YouTube, actually. So if you're looking for a good men's game that you want to watch, I would check that out.
The next match that we are going to talk about in depth is from the Italian Women's League, Scandicci versus Novara. They are currently number 2 and 5 in the Italian league, I believe. So we figured it would be a good game, and it did not disappoint.
Probably one of the best technical and competitive games, especially on the women's side, I've watched in a long time.
Oh my gosh. It just really highlights the difference in level, I guess, from league to league. I guess we haven't seen a match played at this high of a level since maybe Worlds.
Yeah, I would agree. The serves were tough. The opposites were going after each other. Just the level of play and defense and what they were trying to do to different players, strategy wise. The Italians can't build an ice rink, but man, their coaches look good on the sidelines.
Gotta love it when a coaching staff wears suits.
So let's go over some of the players from both teams. Our American listeners will definitely recognize a few names on Scandicci, which is fun.
We got Avery Skinner, Sarah Franklin, and I believe Lindsay Ruddins.
Skinner starting, Franklin on the bench. I thought Skinner looked good in that match. She's holding her own. She's passing well. I thought she attacked well. Overall, I would say a really good performance.
We've got Maya Onyenovich setting, Antropova on the right side, Katerina Bossetti as the second left side. And then for this match in the middle, we had Graziani and Weitzel from Germany, Brenda Castillo as the libero. So solid roster.
Very solid. Bunch of different countries, top players. They're a very good team.
For Novara, we have Carlotta Cambi setting, the backup for Alessia Oro on the national team. We've got Toluk from Russia on the right side.
I want to come back to her after you finish going over the players who are still there.
Britt Herbots and Alsmeyer on the left from Belgium and Germany, respectively. And in the middle, we had another Belgian player and Federica Scorcini from Italy. Taylor Mims is actually on this team, but she is on the bench.
Yeah. We'll start with the interesting thing first in terms of, I watched this match and I hadn't watched Toluk play at all. This was the first time. I had never even heard of her. She's a Russian opposite. She has played her last 5 or 6 seasons in Russia. And this is one of the things you miss when Russia's not involved in international play. And Russia produces some very good volleyball players. And Toluk went toe-to-toe with Antropova in this match, which I thought was impressive. Her numbers were actually better than Antropova's.
Seriously?
Yeah, she went 27 for 51, hitting 501.
Dang, I felt like she was getting blocked.
She may have been blocked a few times, but she was a scoring machine. Antropova was 17 for 38, hitting 368.
Still, not too shabby.
No, not too shabby.
I think the craziest thing, though, is that both of those women are 22 years old.
It's wild. They could be playing in college. Think about that.
Let's think about this. Like, that's insane.
And this is the piece that you have to think about when you talk about college players. And every once in a while, you watch one of these 21, 22-year-olds play on the international stage, and then you compare them to what you're seeing. And it's wild. So if you're an NCAA college volleyball fan, I would encourage you to go watch this match and pay attention to the right sides, and then let us know what you think the comparison is to like an Olivia Babcock or a Martin, because it's
and also take into consideration the level of athlete these women are playing against.
Totally.
Like, these are like national team. Every single player on the court is on a starter on their national team, pretty much.
Except
almost.
For Antropova, who would probably
Except
start
Antropova.
on any national team other than Italy.
Honestly, also shout out to Maya Onyenovich, who's like over 40 and is still running a banging offense. Like,
absolutely.
And I think she connects well with Avery Skinner, who likes a faster ball.
Yes.
Some of those balls that they were running with the 31 in the middle with Skinner over top, holy.
I think this year specifically, both for Skinner and Franklin, is going to be huge for the U.S. I see them coming back and probably stepping into the starting left side spots. Franklin practicing against that starting squad all the time is going to make her so much better.
I wonder if she'll stay overseas and continue to take advantage of that opportunity, or if she just like would rather play.
I think if she stays overseas and then plays for the U.S. national team and does that cycle up until 2028, that gives her the best chance of starting for them. That would be my opinion.
The other thing that really impressed me was everybody's out of system setting. And I know that I always talk about it, but I'm obsessed with some good out of system setting. The liberos, the left sides, like you name it, these women were setting really good balls out of system.
Yeah, you would see almost every dig that happened. The hitters were in a window where they could put a good attack on the ball. We're going to do a listener question about 3 outsides and an opposite. And this match really highlighted to me what an opposite should do for you. There were some great defensive plays and just massive swings by both Tolok and Antropova. It was so much fun to watch. It was such a high level match. And it was the skill of all of the players to make decisions like that was impressive.
And some of the angles that these middles were hitting, they weren't run a ton, I didn't think. But when they were set, some of those angles were impressive. It was just a really high level, entertaining match to watch. Or was I completely wrong and they set the middle a lot? So you are wrong.
That was one of the reasons that Scandicci won that match, was because their middles got set 33 times combined and had 20 kills between the two.
Forget everything I just said.
I mean, it was 5 sets, so it's not a ton of sets, but they were very active and they were very efficient. And Scandicci's middles were A, both threats, and B, they blocked well. I think Scandicci outblocked them 15-5 on the match, which is a pretty big margin. And the middles for Novara didn't play poorly. They got set 23 times with 12 kills, but the difference for me was they only had one middle who was a real threat. Squarcini scored a whole bunch of points for them out of the middle, but their other middles who were rotating in and out didn't get set a ton. And so not having that second middle threat and not setting them quite as much as Scandicci, I thought was one of the big differences. And you can see those things show up in the block, right? A middle's not a threat. Scandicci has 15 blocks. Scandicci's middles are both threats. You're at 5 for Novara. I thought that made a huge difference in the outcome of that match.
I mean, both of these teams are incredibly skilled. Honestly, Scandicci went up 2-0, and I thought it was going to be done in 3 or 4.
Yeah.
And the fact that Novara fought back and pushed it to 5, I was like, dang.
It was a gritty win. It reminded me of the UC Irvine match we played, just in terms of their refusing to lose.
Yeah, and I mean, in the first 2 sets, Scandicci, like, it was pretty tight until like 16-16 or like somewhere in the middle of the set. And then Scandicci just like blew them away. And like to see them regroup and kind of get it together in sets 3 and 4, I thought was so good. And like I said, like both of these teams are really good. But if you look at them like player for player, I felt that Scandicci had like elite talent and Novara had like a step down of that talent.
You know the analogy that I love. If we go Scandicci's 1A, then Novara had the 1B for all of the positions just behind them. Although I will say, I mean, Antropova is better than Tolok, but I think Tolok outplayed her in this match. Now, she got set a whole bunch more, and she needed to outplay her for it to be close. Scandicci has a more balanced offense, as we alluded to, but she was very good, especially down the stretch.
No, and I'm not denying that. I'm just saying, like, when you look at Avery Skinner to Herbots, okay, they're similar, but like Katarina Bossetti to Alsmeyer, if we're looking at it from a passing and defensive perspective for the P2, Bossetti's better. Like Weitzel is better than, Squarcini. Granda Castillo is better than their libero. Onjenovic, I thought, set a better game than Kim. It's just like a slight edge in each position was the difference.
It makes a huge difference. Everybody scores one more point or plays that much better, makes one more play. I agree with you. But
then, okay, so if you, just for perspective, for listeners who might not watch overseas leagues, if a love team were to play against one of these teams, how many points do you think they would score? Do you think they'd win a set, etc.?
I think if both teams are playing to their capabilities, I think they probably score 17 or 18 points against these teams. That would be my guess. I think they have trouble passing probably. I think the serving
Those serves were bombs.
Yeah, and
We're talking about serving in one of the listener questions later.
Yeah.
These were very good serves.
So I think that causes problems, which means they probably aren't as effective at running the middle. And I would say the out of system setting for most of the Love teams isn't as good as it is here. So I feel like they would be on the defensive quite a bit playing those two teams. That would be my assessment.
I mean, overall, we watched some very entertaining matches, as you said earlier. I'm so glad we tuned into this one. I thought it would be good, and it did not disappoint. So if you want to go back and watch some good volleyball, because there's not enough happening live every single day. Monday, Tuesday are a little slim. So if you want something to do Mondays and Tuesdays, go back and watch the Pepperdine UC Irvine game or the Scandicci Novara game because they were very good.
Mondays and Tuesdays should now be known as replay days.
There you go.
We haven't done this for a while because there has been such an intense focus on NCAA, and we've been, in kind of one zone for a long time. But now that we're watching and following a whole bunch of leagues, I think it's going to be fun to bring some games back into the mix. It'll help us look at some of the different leagues, mix things up a little bit. So because we have been doing fantasy and MLV and following that, pretty closely at the start of the season, I think we're 2 weeks in at this point. I wanted to get a quick kind of coaches mood meter for the 8 MLV teams based off the first 2 weeks. Now, we'll take it with, perspective going into the season, how they thought they should do, who they've beat, how they've lost. I'll give a quick rundown here, and then you give me who you think is the happiest coach down to the least happy coach with a little bit of a justification. As a quick rundown, Orlando Valkyrie are 3-0. Indy Ignite are 2-0. Atlanta Vibe are 2-2. Now they beat Grand Rapids and Omaha. They lost to Columbus and San Diego. Omaha is 2-2. Remember, they lost 2 matches this week in 5. One of them a reverse sweep. The Dallas Pulse are 1-1, beating San Diego and losing to Indy. Grand Rapids 1-2, Columbus 1-3, and San Diego 1-3. Hit me with your thoughts.
Am I putting them in order or something?
Put them in order of which coaching staff do you think is the happiest, the least happiest?
Okay, happiest, I'm going to say Orlando.
Okay.
Because, defending champs, you have a target on your back. It is always harder to stay at the top than it is to get to the top. So the fact that they have come back after their championship season and they started 3-0 and beat Omaha
in 5 recently, last game.
I think that they should be very happy.
I agree.
Second, I'm going to put Indy. They also had a really good season last year. They finished second. They have a new coach. So there's a bit of a transition there. But that in consideration with the start that they've had, you can't be mad at that. Third, I'm going to say Dallas.
That was going to be my
Really?
third, yes.
It is so hard to start a new program and having to pick players, take them from different teams and try to, hope that it's a formula that works. That is such a big risk. And it's just kind of let's see what happens. Tried my best here. Kind of like me with my fantasy team. So the fact that, they lost to Indy, strong team, not a bad loss, I would say, especially for the first match, but to come out and win their second match, albeit against San Diego, it doesn't matter, but I think that they have to be happy with that start.
Well, not to mention that one of your key players in Mimi Collier only got to practice with the team 2 or 3 weeks before the season started. So you have, as a coaching staff, you're excited you got at least one win, and you have a ton of room to improve and keep getting better. So I agree with you so far. I think we might differ in our opinion on the next one.
What are we on, number 4?
Yeah.
I'm going to say Columbus.
Oh, that's what I was going to say.
Okay, Columbus, even though they're currently sitting second last, they are a completely different team than last year. They are, even though they've lost a few matches, they are close. They're in the conversation. They are so close to just getting a few more points and turning those matches. So I think they are definitely on the right track. I think they're heading in the right direction. They got a huge win right off the bat against Atlanta, which I don't think many people expected them to do. And then for all intents and purposes, should have beaten Grand Rapids. They were up big in set 5. Indy, like, good team. So I think that things are going well for Columbus.
And definitely given how last season went, even though, like you said, the record doesn't show it, they're playing much better. The vibe and the feeling is much better. I think you have hope that you can, finish in the middle of the pack and push some good teams for them.
Okay, number 5, I'm going to say Grand Rapids.
Okay.
Why would that sounded disgusted?
No, I think I would have gone Atlanta next.
Absolutely not.
Okay. Well, you go your way, I'll go mine.
I mean, Grand Rapids, I don't really have a reason for putting them there. I just mostly have reasons for putting the other 3 below them.
Okay.
I would probably put Omaha 6.
Okay.
Because with the spend they made on acquiring the names they did, on the whole, like, the expectations on them are very high, just from a sponsor perspective, a fan base perspective, who they brought in, and the fact that you're starting the season 2-2, losing to 2 of your rivals in Atlanta and Orlando, not amazing. But I would put Atlanta below them because I feel like Atlanta and Omaha have similar expectations, but I feel like the teams that Atlanta lost to are way worse than the ones that Omaha lost to. Like, they lost to San Diego and Columbus, the 2 bottom teams.
See, and for me, that's why the justification would be flipped. I would put Atlanta ahead of them. They beat Omaha, who's their rival. They're going to look at those 2 losses and go, okay, we can clean that up. Like, that's not going to happen again. But Omaha, the way they lost in 5 to both of those teams, one of them being a reverse sweep of the good teams in the league, of not being able to finish, I'm more unhappy as a coach in that case.
I can get behind that.
That would be my justification for that.
I can get behind that reasoning. San Diego, honestly, I'd be worried as a coach just because they looked so bad. I mean, yes, they just beat Atlanta in 5, which this is a new finding since we started recording this episode, so keep that in mind. But they just do not look good as a team for me. They look disjointed. I already mentioned, I don't think their setter's running a good offense. They don't seem to get anybody going in a good rhythm. It just seems so disjointed. So even putting the losses aside and the ranking standings aside, they just don't look good to me.
I agree with you. My question for you about them is, I think that a lot of their issues come from the setting, which we've talked about.
Well, yeah, so play somebody else then, but they're not.
But do you think that their head coach I was going to call her Alicia Childress, is uniquely set up to fix that and make it better? Or do you think that it's a tough ask?
I mean, I feel like once you hit this level, you're either running a good offense or you're not. We're not talking like 16U club where you can still be like molded and see like massive improvements. I'm not saying you can't see improvement. You definitely can. You're playing professional volleyball.
Yeah, it takes longer and the changes are a little more micro.
More micro.
Fair enough. I think it's going to be a long year for San Diego.
So you agree with my order, except you would reverse Atlanta or Omaha and put Grand Rapids like somewhere at the bottom?
Yeah, I would put Grand Rapids to me is the wild card. I haven't watched them play it either, so I don't really have. And
using your favorite word, I'd be like, they're fine.
Yeah. Yeah. So somewhere in between in the Atlanta, Omaha section. I don't think that they lost to Orlando and Atlanta. So they've lost to good teams. I think you're okay with that, knowing where you were last time. So I'd probably put them ahead of Atlanta and Omaha, given expectations. And then I would go Atlanta ahead of Omaha and then finish with what you said. That would be my instinct.
But we're in agreement for the top 4.
Yes.
Okay.
Well, there we go. Coaches Mood Meter for MLV Week 2. And we're going to cook up some new games
We love a game.
Or this year.
It stressed me out a little bit.
Yeah, it's always fun because Sarah never knows what's coming.
Let's dive in to some listener questions. Question 1. I thought it was weird that on Civitanova, which is an Italian men's team, they have 3 outsides on their roster instead of 2 outsides and an opposite. I've never seen this before. What do you guys think makes a team go for a format like this? And could you talk about the advantages and disadvantages of doing this compared to a regular team makeup?
So the advantages of having, and for the sake of this question, let's assume that you have 3 legitimate outside hitters and no true opposite.
Because sometimes they do list an opposite as an outside. I feel like it's kind of an oversight sometimes.
Yeah.
Because they are not the same position.
Yeah, I would agree with that. So let's say you have 3 actual outsides. Generally, your right side is your best point scorer. They're your most physical player. Outside maybe of a middle, but they're getting the majority.
And probably don't have the greatest ball control.
Yeah, so those are kind of the 2 big things are usually not as good ball control as your left sides and usually a better attacker than your left sides. Now, if you don't have somebody who's significantly better attacking wise, the benefit of having 3 outside hitters on the floor is you can change your passing rotation based off who's serving to free up other players and to pass appropriate seams or have an easier time getting approach routes for different hitters. So there is an advantage from an overall ball control standpoint if you use outsides. The downside is you often don't have as good of an outlet option on the right side in terms of ability to just score points.
Question 2. Why do the pro teams in the U.S. feel so much slower, especially in serving? When the announcers say they're serving tough, the other team still passes literally perfect balls most of the time. For example, Virginia Adriano at the college level, even though her serve is inconsistent, when she does get it in, it's really good. And internationally, this person is talking about how those players have speed and float and consistency. So why does the U.S. pro system seem different? A, do you agree that it seems different, that it is different, first of all?
I think it depends on what league you're comparing it to.
Okay, so this person was comparing it to like VNL, Worlds.
Yes, totally. It's different.
And if we're talking, let's compare it to the 2 foreign leagues we talk about most, which would be Italy and Turkey.
Yes, it's different. You have, listen, nobody wants to hear this, but you have a different caliber of player in those VNL and Worlds matches in the top 2 leagues than you currently do in the U.S. Pro Leagues. That's not to say there aren't some servers who serve at an international caliber level, but as a whole, it's not the same. And they're young leagues. They are not as established as those other teams and national teams. So you're just not going to see the same physicality and skill level. Do you think it's different?
Yeah, and I think a lot also has to do with like the type of ball that is used. Granted, the Italian league does use a molten ball, so whatever. But like internationally, like the different balls that are used do have a different touch, both on serving and passing. But I think another part of this person's question basically is like, why are the announcers saying they're serving so tough when the passes are perfect? Do you think the serves are legitimately tough and the passing is that good? Or do you think they're just saying they're serving tough?
Part of the announcer's job is to make the league interesting and seem competitive and compelling to watch. You do that by talking about different aspects. The serving is good, the passing is not as good. I would say the serving is probably not as tough as the announcers are making it seem, or they use that line. And remember, they're talking about volleyball for 2 hours. You have to put things into perspective, and there's a scale, right? Maybe that was a tough serve for the current match that was going on. If you compare it to VNL and Worlds, not tough. If you compare it to the match yesterday or 3 other servers on her team, maybe that was a tougher serve. There's all kinds of caveats to what the announcers are trying to do and how they do it. And I mean, we've talked about this at length on some of the announcing trends on the leagues, but overall, I don't think the serving is as competitive as it is in the top leagues and internationally, which is understandable.
Okay, question 3. What are your thoughts on NCAA programs that accept transfers when they're already at the maximum roster capacity, which is 18 players allowed for the NCAA? So this person alluded to Arizona State, basically with the players they lost, the players they signed for 2026. They were going to be at the 18. Again, I didn't fact check this. I'm assuming this person did their research. And then they continued to sign more portal players, which would put them over the capacity, meaning they'll have to get rid of people. I mean, I want to reiterate, I did not fact check this, but if this is the case, I feel like that's real shady. Like, what are you doing? You recruited kids to come in. You have your current roster who decided to stick it out.
Maybe.
Unless they're anticipating more transfers in May. But you don't know for sure. Unless a kid walked into your office and was like, hey, can I stick around for spring ball and then I'm leaving? Like, but I can't really see that happening.
Maybe, but you don't know.
Okay, so what would you do if you were a coach who had over the capacity and then nobody decided to leave in May?
Well, so this comes back to individual integrity, in my opinion. Same as we talked about with the agents. The staff is working to get the best roster, the most competitive roster they can. If you have made promises to kids and you are breaking those promises to bring in better athletes, personally, I don't love that. You're trying to make the best team. So I understand, because the athletes have no loyalty. So how it comes down to communication and expectation.
When you put it that way, like red flags were flying when I was reading this question, but you're right. Athletes have there are not many athletes that have loyalty anymore. So it's like, look out for yourself, but then do you also want that reputation? Because then how hard is it going to be to get athletes? Well, or are you just going to be a portal school for the rest of your life and just be like, well, I guess we're not going to recruit any club kids.
Well, and you're assuming that it's the kids who are coming in that are getting cut. I mean, maybe they're getting rid of a fourth year.
No, that's what I mean. I'm not making any assumptions that it's the recruits coming in that are getting cut. I think it's the kids that have been there who are maybe on the bench.
Yeah. Again, to me,
also, you need a bench because bench players have a very important role, especially during training.
Yeah. It comes down to your communication with your athletes, the expectations you have set in your practice, and is everybody on the same page? And I don't think that's any different than the conversation we had with Wisconsin last week or with any of these schools. It's really hard, but you as a staff need to act with integrity. And the same goes for the athletes.
At the end of the day, you have to live with your choices.
True.
And it's like, if you sleep well at night, I'm happy for you. I would not.
I mean, I don't think
But then don't go complaining.
Right. I don't think as a program you can pass up on a really good athlete who makes your team better, who wants to come. I mean, your job is to build a competitive program.
I think this is just a microcosm of society as a whole these days, where everybody's just looking out for themselves and nobody cares about anybody else. It sucks. It sucks.
I don't disagree with you, but I think given the climate, it's realistic. You look at all the pro sports teams, you don't have to be cap compliant or roster compliant until the season starts.
I think you maybe mentioned this last week. There needs to be a cap on how many transfers you can accept in a 4-year period or something.
They'll let it go for a few more years. They'll see what the issues are, and then someone will make some rules. They'll end up being like
all these people out here just guinea pigs with NIL and everything.
Yeah. You'll end up having an athletes union who will represent them, and there'll be a bargaining agreement, and that's where it's heading. That's where it's heading.
I quit at that point. Question 4. This one is from a Canadian listener. Woo.
Heyo.
Okay. So, kind of a long question, but we have a youth team, a club team, who was ranked 2nd in our province last year, and we've been waitlisted for nationals. Just wondering what your thoughts are on Volleyball Canada's system of deciding which club teams get to go to nationals, which is basically to solicit expressions of interest from all teams across Canada, and then do a random draw to see who gets to attend. I can't even keep a straight face because our parents run very big volleyball clubs and this has come up before. Why are we deciding who goes to nationals, if you can even call it that at this point, by doing a random draw instead of having top teams get an invite first? How is this good for the competitiveness of athletes in the sport in Canada?
I mean, the short answer to your question is it's not good for the competitive nature for the sport, but it's very much in line with the Canadian philosophy of fair play and equality, and
that's why Canada doesn't win medals and stuff.
Yes. I agreed. And I think they've come to realize that the top teams who really want to be good come down and play in the States. So they have the opportunity to run nationals, to invite whoever they want so they don't upset anybody. It's equal. It's in line with a lot of, sporting policies across the country. And if you really want to compete, you go to the US.
That's nice guy Adam's answer. My answer is I think it's a joke. It
never used to be that way.
When we played, which is like too long ago, don't ask. It was merit based. You had to be ranked in a certain place in your province to even get the opportunity to go, which I love that. And I love the way the Americans do it, where you have to go to qualifiers. You have to nationals actually means something in the US, and it meant something back when we played. I think it's ridiculous, quite frankly. What is the point of winning provincials if you're just going to potentially not even get to go to nationals? And if you do go, you play the 76th ranked team from Saskatchewan. That's not fun for anybody.
No, I don't disagree.
Not to mention, no college coaches want to go watch nationals when it's literally a mixed bag of skill level. But
let's be honest, the Canadian Nationals is about money for the national team.
Is it even money for the national team?
Yes. You're
still going to get that same money, but you could have a better competition.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
If the top teams go, you're still going to get the money.
But you're growing the sport and you're getting other kids in.
I'm sorry. I understand. Let's keep people interested in volleyball. Let's make it an accessible sport for people. It's a sport for life, blah, blah, blah. That's fine. But let's have real nationals, and then we can have an open play nationals for kids and teams who want to have fun.
Yeah. I mean, I think the best approach is, and again, similarly, the US does this, they have divisions. So lots of people can go to divisions and play wherever they want. But if you want to compete at the top tier and you want to win those tournaments, which means something.
No, but I think for nationals, you straight up need to qualify.
I believe there is an open division for other teams, depending on which tournaments you go to, some of the big tournaments, which are equivalent to a national, I believe. I think Canada has swung too far in the fair play mantra, and you're losing some of that competitiveness. And again, teaching opportunities to be competitive. When you have to go to a qualifier and you have to win to go to nationals, those are learning experience for athletes who want to be top players. You have to learn how to perform. You have to learn how to make adjustments. You have to play under pressure. It matters.
All skills that matter if you want to continue playing the sport after high school. Or you know what? Even deal with real life pressures.
Not a fan.
Not a fan. Question 5. Can you guys talk about contracts for MLV and Love? I'm curious if someone like Lexi Rodriguez would be paid more due to her popularity within Nebraska, or are contracts strictly based on positions and performance?
Okay, so first and foremost, contract talk is not really public information.
Yeah, I don't know what the MLV and Love situations are.
This is my best understanding, and it may not be entirely accurate, but it's different between the two leagues. Love as an organization signs and pays players and then puts them on their corresponding team. I don't believe in Lexi's case you would be getting additional revenue because you're playing in Nebraska and you're popular there, because it's a central organization deciding contracts.
But do you think that their contracts operate the way most do, where point scoring outsides and opposites get paid the most and liberos and middles get paid the least?
From a league standpoint, I'm not sure how Love operates. I don't know whether
that's how it does. Yeah, that's how it works in a lot of places.
Right. But they also need the league to succeed. So maybe they're paying players who get more eyeballs or bring people in or have agreements to do marketing. The Love situation is different than any other pro team because the players are registered centrally and not for a team. MLV, on the other hand, those teams are individually owned. The general managers or the owners are signing those contracts. Now, there's a framework in terms of what you can pay people, but yes, it would make more sense for those people to sign and pay players who will put butts in seats. And positionally, I think that could be different because they're making their own revenue. So it's different, and the considerations would be different. Again, I'm fully acknowledging that a lot of those processes are private, but that's my understanding.
I mean, liberos are definitely making less than everybody else around the world. I'm curious how the MLV and Love libero salaries compare to overseas.
I think there's a big push in the American leagues that there's a lot of equity. Like there's a minimum salary and then a maximum salary. So you're not paying your libero, a tenth of the lowest person. They may be making the minimum salary, but there is a minimum salary. I mean, I don't think they have those in some of the other leagues.
Okay, last question of the day. If there is a toxic player on your team that's not meshing well with the culture of the team, as a teammate, what is the best way to deal with that toxic player to make it through the season? We know various ways coaches can deal with toxic players, so I'm curious to get your perspective on best approaches for fellow teammates to deal with this type of athlete.
So I think this question, it's different for men and women. I think how that functions is fundamentally different. I have played with people that I didn't like.
Yeah, but was the person toxic or did you just not like them?
Toxic is such a weird word.
He was toxic to me.
They weren't great for team dynamics. Let's put it that way. You just go out and you play and you do your job and you work towards that and you put that beside you and you don't spend time together off the court. Like, I think that's generally how guys function, how male teams function, unless it's really bad.
I was thinking that that's how I would function.
It also depends. Like if this is 14U or 16U club volleyball, there's a different solution than if you're playing professionally and you're being paid to behave a certain way.
But how often in like youth and club is it like toxic parents?
Wow.
And not necessarily toxic kids, but like the toxic parents, like the messaging at home makes the kid
I think if
bad.
I think if you're looking for a way to deal with this as a player, you treat that person with respect when you need to, but you do your best to limit the interactions, especially if they are condescending or demeaning to you, or like if that toxic is wearing on you in a particular way. That's a tough question.
Yeah,
and it's
that's
very
so
situational.
Because it's like, okay, if you have a problem with somebody, you don't need to be friends with everybody you play with. But if it's ruining team culture,
And again, depending on what the age
that's
group
no
is,
good.
there are more or less roles that a coach should play. Like if they're youth, the coach needs to help address the situation because the athletes may not have the tools or the experience to deal with that. If it's a professional or a college situation, you should be better equipped to kind of handle that and make it work because the team's shooting for a goal.
I always think it's worth having a conversation, though.
Totally.
I remember we had a conversation like this once on our national team when I played indoor. It didn't go well.
And it might not go well, but at least you've tried.
Yeah, I think it's important to give people the opportunity to make changes once they are made aware of how their actions make you feel.
And it's also, you have to be careful that you're not the only one who perceives the toxicness.
Toxic.
Yeah, whatever you want to call it, right? If you're just one,
that's what it's called.
Yeah, okay. Fair. But if you're the only one who's bothered by this person, then it's more of a personal thing than a team issue. If it's affecting, 3 or 4 players, then try and address it.
But I think people can only operate with information they're given. So I think bringing things up and letting it be known how a certain person's words or actions are making a group feel, you have to give people the opportunity to make a change. And then if that doesn't work, cut them. No, just kidding.
Great question. Tough question.
Really tough. Love these questions every week. Keep them coming. Instagram, email, you name it. Top segment for me.
I love this one as well. Looking forward to this week. Again, there's so much to watch and so many good matches. So we're going to highlight a few here. Watch some replays Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday in this case as well. But starting on Thursday at 9 p.m. Eastern, we have Stanford versus UC Santa Barbara on the men's side. Thursday at 7 p.m. Eastern, MLV is Indy versus Orlando, both undefeated teams, so that will be a really good match to watch. Friday at 7 p.m. Eastern, Pepperdine versus Loyola Chicago. Pepperdine coming off a loss, Loyola Chicago playing really well currently, so that will be really good. That's also NCAA men's. Saturday at 9 p.m. Eastern, UC Irvine versus BYU. Lots of really good men's games this week. Saturday, 9 p.m. Eastern, Love Madison versus Salt Lake. Both teams are currently playing well, so that should be a really good game. And then Sunday at 2 p.m. Eastern, we have Trentino versus Perugia, which is an Italian men's game. Both of those teams are at the top of the league.
I think it's a 1 versus 3.
Yeah, that's gonna be a great game, and that'll be on VB TV. Lots to tune into. Watch what you can, and we'll be back here next week to discuss it.
That concludes this week's episode of Volley Talk. There's always something shaking in the volleyball world, and we hope you enjoyed this little fix. Be sure to follow the show so you don't miss any updates. And we'd be so grateful if you'd leave us a 5-star review. You can find us on Instagram at volleytalk_podcast. If you have a topic you'd like us to discuss, you can reach out to us on Instagram or at info@sarahpavin.com. Thanks so much for joining us, and we'll be back next week.